Hey, I didn't know you were coming by today. Welcome. Wow, it's good to see you. What am I doing? Well, I'm just going over some paperwork. This is some routine paperwork that you'll see sooner or later. Well, let's just go ahead and talk about that now. Well, you know how we are here at Treasure Valley Dave Edwards. We're very thorough in our paperwork. And that's what I'm doing today is some of that paperwork that you're going to be seeing fairly soon. And I thought maybe we could go over a little bit of it so you're familiar with it. So what I'm looking at right now is what we call in the industry the blue brochure. This is the agency disclosure brochure. And this has some very important things that the state of Idaho wants you to know about. One of the things is that right now you're a customer and that I'm obligated to give you a certain level of service. And then once I officially start working for you, there's some other things that get added to that. And here on the second page, down here at the bottom is some various good things that you should know about, whether it's this contract or any contract, like that you need to be able to read it and understand it and things like that. Another interesting thing is the world that we live in now is that when you do look at homes, there may be surveillance equipment set up. So when you go in there, don't say, oh, I got to have this house at any price, because the seller might hear that and they'll know that they could charge you any price. And then really what this whole brochure is named for is agency. And let's talk about that just 1 second because that's apparently kind of important. So what agency means is the relationship that you have with the broker and the other parties involved in the transaction. If the broker has only you that she's advocating for and the other side has their own broker, then you both have single agency. If our broker, it has you and also the other side because they're both part of our same brokerage, then that becomes a dual agency and the broker has to take on more care in how she handles herself and make sure she doesn't advocate for one side over another. But what that means in practical terms is that our brokerage is so huge, we dominate this valley, you got over 800 agents, that the chances of finding a seller that's represented by the same broker that I have, and you as the buyer, is very high. And that means that our broker is going to have to be able to make sure that she doesn't advocate for one or the other. And I can tell you that this is not her first rodeo. And all my experience with working under her is that she's always been very fair in everything that she's done. So once we've talked about all that, then I'm going to have you sign it. And I'm going to have you sign it right here. And this just acknowledges that we've gone over this. You've seen it, you've had a chance to read it, and I've answered any questions you might have. This is a compliance thing, and the state's going to come by and check our files, and they're going to want to make sure that you did, in fact, get to know about this information. So it's no big deal, but that's what you'll be signing for. And so that's just about it for the blue brochure. And after that, let's get into the representation agreement. And I just want you to be familiar with this, so when it comes time to do it for real, that you know what we're talking about. So I know it can be a little overwhelming when people are just pushing all these papers at you to sign, but that's kind of why I want to go over this with you now. So this is where I officially start working for you. Here at the top it says that I'm going to be working for you, but it's my broker that's ultimately responsible, and we talked about that when we were talking about the blue brochure. Under that, we're going to talk about the kind of property that you're looking for, and then after that, it's how long does this stay in effect? And typically we put 6 months because it could take you a while. If it's a new build, it could be a year and a half. And following that is a myriad of different disclaimers and things like that. It's all important stuff that you should probably know about. For instance, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an inspector. I can't see through walls. But I will do my very best. If I see something that it might benefit me to say nothing, but it would be bad for you, I'm going to say it anyway, because you know me, I just can't keep my mouth shut when it comes to making sure that I'm looking out for your best interest. So here on page 2, we get to the part where we talk about agency. You remember that from the blue brochure. This is where we have the single and the dual agency. Now, if you're not confident that my broker can remain impartial to both sides, then here's an opportunity for you to initial that you only want to work with a single agency situation. But before you do initial on that, let's talk about it, see if I can answer your questions. Because with 800 plus agents belonging to this same broker, initially down here, you're excluding so much of the market. And in our tight market right now, I want you to be able to find every property available that meets your needs. And moving along, here's some more standard contract stuff, non-discrimination, severability, and different things like that. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to explain what all those mean to you, but they are pretty self-explanatory. So here on page 3, this is where we talk about compensation. And the first thing we come across is that if the property is listed on the MLS, as most of them are, it's going to say on there how much is being offered. And it's typically 3%, but it could be 2.5, it could be 2. It's always negotiable and it's not set in stone anywhere. The second part is if you find a home that is not on the MLS, maybe it's offered by a builder or maybe it's a for sale by owner, well, that same percentage that we're going to agree upon still has to be paid. And we always try to get the seller to pay that. But if the seller doesn't, we're going to ask you to pay for it. I mean, after all, you don't want me to work for free, am I right? And then as we go down further, if it's a lease property or an hourly rate and things like that. And I've never needed that because that's just not the kind of stuff that we're going to be working with. Other terms and conditions, other agents are going to put in there that they're going to have you pay various different fees and things like that, process paperwork. I don't do that. That's my cost of doing business. It has nothing to do with you. So I'm not going to ask you to do that. And that can be $500-$600. So if you're talking with other agents and you come across that line right there, other terms and conditions, have your radar on and see if they're actually serving their best interest or yours. And then after that is some more standard contract things. Important though, like a warning about wire transfer fraud. It's a real thing and it can happen. So people I work with, and I want you to be highly vigilant to make sure that it doesn't happen. And then on page 4, we get to the point where you guys sign and I sign, and then I start working for you. So why is this form important? Well, it cements our relationship. And what does that mean? That means that we're both committed to each other, working towards the same goal. And as we go through this process, you're going to be relying upon me for a lot of different things, and I'm going to be giving it my all and doing a ton of work for you. And what this means is that we are committed to each other, that we're not going to get this close to the goal line and then maybe some fast talker is going to come by and sway you to go some other direction. So that's what this form's about. It's protection for me. I don't get paid until we reach your goal, and I want to help you reach that goal. And so that's what these forms mean right here. It's just something you're going to see at the beginning of a relationship, and I just wanted you to be familiar with them now. Some people have a hard time just signing something that's been thrown in front of them, and I want you to have the opportunity to have an idea of what these are about. Let me know, and I'll give you a copy of them, and you can check them all out ahead of time. So there's no questions about what it is that you're signing. So we've gone over a lot of information on these forms, and we're committed to the highest level of service. But if you find that we're not meeting the level that you had expected, that you're locked in forever, that's not true. I want you to get that level of service, whether it's from me or from somebody else. And I'm not going to keep you locked into this. I want you to go get that service someplace else. And if you've already signed a representation agreement with another agent and you're finding that they're not giving you that level of service that you need, you can ask them to let you out so you can find that level someplace else. They may or they may not. If they don't, that's a great invitation to talk with their broker about maybe what's lacking on their part. In worst case scenario, these contracts do have a time limit, and you can just wait it out until your contract expires. And you have a copy of that, and so you can look through there and find out when it does expire, if that's the worst case scenario. And so really that's what these forms are all about. It's just the groundwork, so we're both on the same page, we know what's going on. And they're not big and hairy and scary or anything like that. They're just us coming to an agreement on what we're going to do and how we're going to get to that goal. Well, I'm going to get back to this paperwork real quick. Hey, have you liked, shared, and subscribed my YouTube videos? Please go ahead and do that. We come out with a new one every Thursday, and they're always great. And remember, hey, this is Treasure Valley Dave, always looking forward to helping you get home.